Hello everyone and welcome to another digital asset assessment video. And this time I have a special guest. This is Ewan Finzer. He's a website operator. You told me that you're holding about 30, 40 websites that you're operating just for you, and then a few dozens with partners, right?
Yeah, that's about right. So we have our owned and operated portfolio, which is kind of built from scratch and acquired sites over the years. And then we have a couple other kind of operating entities with either investors or partners that we kind of use the same operations entity to run all of them, but they're kind of separate companies for legal purposes. So yeah, that's correct. About 30 that we operate ourselves.
Got it. Okay, guys. So you definitely want to listen to Ewan, what he has to say about today's website that we're going to assess. This time it's a magazine-style website in a pretty, let's call it entertainment niche? Entertainment?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, we'll jump into the listing. That's on Flippa. You'll give your insights, I'll give mine, and we'll have some fun.
Sounds good.
Let's do that. So we have Rocks Off Magazine. That's a listing on Flippa. We have a classified listing, meaning it's not a bid. Now at that 50% discount, although it says 36%, but 39 minus, it's almost 50%. I don't know how they calculate this thing. First 36%. You did mention that you put up a bid on this one. So you'll be looking at this listing thoroughly. So I'll give you the honor jumping in and, reading the title, seeing what catches your eyes, saying, wow, this is a good listing that I should look into more deeply. That will kind of giving people, understanding what other thing they need to look at when they're first seeing a listing.
Yes. Yeah. So the first thing that I think caught my attention, and this is probably a good exercise for everyone to go through, is like it was related to, not directly related, but tangentially related to a couple other businesses that we have, right? So that was the first thing. It's like, okay, I understand enough about the vertical, we even there's some content teams that we already have that we could, it'd be easier to operate for us. So that was like what first piqued my interest. And I think that's probably helpful for readers. Like if you have any kind of insight or edge into a vertical, even if you're just starting off and it's like, hey, I love, I don't know, I love cooking, or I like travel, or I live in whatever country, that can be a competitive advantage, because you'd be surprised at the types of people that publish. I mean, like some people have zero experience and they operate sites. And so if you do have a little bit of advantage, like other verticals that this makes sense for is like fishing or something where like your specialized knowledge, even if you're not world-renowned fisherman, it will be helpful. And so that's kind of how I looked at this. It's not a personal passion of mine, but it's one where we had a competency on the team. So I think that's kind of what caught my eye initially. Do you look at that?
Does that mean that you are also, let's say, competing against other websites of yours because of that? Because there's probably some overlap, right?
So yeah, a little bit of overlap, but this is, I was like the analogy of owning multiple gas stations in the same neighborhood. And so they do compete a little bit, but there's so many benefits to having in the same neighborhood. The people,
You can date on the page, definitely.
And what people are paying, what the RPMs are. So you can kind of, when you're doing your diligence, you can really understand where is this hitting the mark, where is this off the mark in terms of the value.
Okay, so lesson here, find something that with a niche you already know about, that will be much easier and a better purchase.
Yes.
Okay. What else? What else did you see?
So okay, I think that it was listed higher in it, but they still have the same tactic, which is it was discounted. And so I kind of looked at it and I was like, okay, I don't know if it's still getting this. I think that it was much lower now. If you look at the traffic down below, I think it's 40,000 page views now.
Yeah, but that's
initially I was
that's January. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, initially there's maybe an opportunity here because it has enough traffic, right? And that's the other thing. And it also, when I look
that was it's at the last update, many.
Totally. And so this is another thing.
Places.
Yeah, right now, another reason I'm interested in buying some websites is I do think there's an opportunity if you see a site that's been hit like this, but then you look at the content quality. So I would pull this up in Ahrefs. I see I already have it, but and I would kind of go look at the top article and just kind of read it and be like, is this a good piece of content? Because I think what's kind of happened with the recent update is every single content site's been hit. Even sites that have fairly good content, right?
Except for Reddit.
Except for Reddit, yeah. So, and you can't buy Reddit.
Tomorrow.
Maybe tomorrow. Yeah, you could. I guess you could theoretically buy Reddit at the IPO if you really believed in it.
Ian, I have a question though. So it says here ended 7 days ago, and I don't see that too often. So I guess that was a bid before, and then it became classified, I assume.
Yes. So we had put an offer in. We ended up not working. Some things came up in diligence, mainly due to the issue that the site, as it was being listed like before, it was kind of above the media buying threshold that most people who had a media buying site would be permitted to reapply for. But then as you see that drop, it's now down at below 50,000. Well, I think for media buying session, so it's probably even further below that. And so then you can see the notes up here. I think the seller added this after we had our conversation.
That he mentions that you might not be able to transfer this website
anywhere up front. Like in the initial listing, it wasn't there. Yes. And so that's another thing, I guess the learning point is like, check when you're looking at primarily display ad websites, definitely check those thresholds. Now, there is an analysis you can do that you can say, okay, I replace this with Ezoic, Moneymetric, some other ad network. What would that
30% less or 40% less?
At least. Yeah. And so, but that's a really hard conversation to have sometimes with a seller because they're like, well, earning this, but it's like, yeah, but I can't earn that necessarily. But I did like the content quality, get back to that point. So like, when you read the articles, there are, more entertainment, but they're like reference content around, celebrity musicians. We can get at the things I didn't like about it, but like didn't have a lot of affiliate content. I think almost no stated revenue. I think had a little bit, but no stated revenue.
I'll with you later on.
But the content quality I thought it was good. It's like someone actually wrote this who was interested in this topic. And so I think there's some value to that, particularly like moving forward with all the AI stuff that's happening. Like original content, I think is going to become more valuable if you can identify and protect it in certain ways, and that's a whole different discussion. I was very interested
to how to create more of those, and that's hard.
Yes,
because they're very in depth. I had a look before. Look one of those examples. Let's see.
Yeah.
So you see, it's a 16-minute read blog post.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can write a lot of that with AI, but making it really in depth and engaging. We probably will get there at some point, but then you'll have more competition. But if you want to be ahead of the game, you probably need to write some more content of that in-depth, interesting stuff that people read.
Yeah. I do think the other thing that was interesting for me here is that I am experimenting with Facebook traffic, doing kind of, building up fan pages. And I think this type of website would lend itself to that strategy, where you actually change the, because it's, again, come back to high quality content. Like we don't quite know all the ways it can be distributed, but we do have it, right? You can repackage an email list. You can put it on Facebook. You can maybe do like, I don't know, there's a whole bunch of things you could do with high quality content. And I think right now there's this huge disruption with Google. And so everyone's looking at it like, well, it lost its Google traffic. Well, yes, it did. But it's not just an AI site that lost its Google traffic. It's a quality website that lost traffic. And so the question is,
can buy it for less.
Their intrinsic value.
You can buy it for less now then. That's the bottom line. There are a lot of opportunities because of that.
Yep.
I want to say something interesting, which you don't always see on Flippa. So the seller here, that's Darcy from Australia.
Yeah.
He's saying he's a passionate website entrepreneur. He's verified. He has 3 transactions with $20,000 already. And this is actually the person selling. If you look at the about page.
Yes.
And that's the same Darcy over here selling with his friend, I guess, Eric.
Freelancer.
Or freelancer. They are, they're generally started this website probably because they're passionate about that. These are really good websites to buy because you have the expertise, you have the quality, And these kind of websites, correct me if I'm wrong, but you see them most likely you'll see them on Flippa and not on the main brokers like Empire Flippers, which are more professional kind of.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I've seen a lot, and it, honestly, yeah, I think probably Flippa finds a little bit more of them, but it takes more digging to find them.
Where on Flippa?
Yeah, because there's just so much for sale. Yeah, but I've seen them on all the platforms. It depends. It's like sifting through, mountains of sand to find the diamond. Like most websites, I say are built by other SEOs. And so when you come across a site, and not saying that he isn't, like he does have a digital background, so there's that element. He's not a novice when it comes to building sites and traffic and all that kind of stuff, but he does have that experience, a credible experience, and a real person. And 100%, that's what I look for. Some of the best acquisitions we've made have been from people like this, like passionate bloggers who knew a little bit about marketing, but wouldn't call themselves a digital marketer first.
Yeah. I want to look at the backlink profile. So if you're a beginner with this industry, backlinks and content are probably your bread and butter here. Just to start operating a website, you want to get as many of those. So the higher DR you have, the better. And it does take a little bit of time to load, but then you want to look at the profile and see what you get there. And you got tons of Wikipedia links over here, which is amazing for a website. It really makes you wonder why this website was hit, to be honest.
Yes.
With all that. And if you saw the keywords that I've shown before here, the website ranked for really high positions with the keywords here. For the actual artist names, not even, a long tail, just the name.
Yes.
It's really crazy.
Another thing I sometimes do is I go back and I look at the SERP, and the SERPs are changing a lot, but they were getting pulled up into some of the SERP features for like bios and stuff like that, which I think is a good sign too, that like Google kind of recognizes them as SERP features. Yep.
So you see, these are all the artist names. Let's say Aaron Everly, 13K, and this is also only KD1, which I'm not sure how. Probably Michael Jackson's probably not here, but still, I wonder why the keywords difficulty is so easy for artist names. Do you know why?
I think it's some of it might be an intent kind of mismatch too. Like when you actually look at it, maybe it's like there's different types of content. Like a lot of times in celebrity verticals like this, you're running up against like IMDb or like Wikipedia. So like it is kind of weird, but I think there is opportunity here for sure. I think if I were to take a learning from this, it would be B-list celebrities. There's a huge opportunity. No. Not Michael Jackson, but like the people that people are curious about. There's just not enough information about them, or it's not been collated in one place.
Right. Well, I probably for Led Zeppelin, there won't be at the top ones, but probably somewhere in the middle. But for the B list, as you mentioned, look, 1, 2, 5.
Interesting. Like some of the musicians, but a lot of them are like the musicians' wives or girlfriends or kids. Oh. If you actually read it. So it's like an interesting, because like people are like, what happened to so-and-so's son? Or like, you could be like, Skylar Lene Neal is
keywords of, Laurie Matrix's son, Matrix's daughter.
Yes.
That's a lot of keyword potential here.
Yes, totally. And I think that's the big opportunity here. And so, that's the reason I kind of was interested in the site at first glance. Those are the things I usually do, right? It's like, is it a thematic fit? And I try to avoid stuff where it's like, I don't know anything about it. I don't have anyone on the team that knows anything about it. So that's an easy no. And then I look at the content quality. And honestly, like that's my due diligence hack is the content, because the content's the product, right? And so 9 times out of 10, if the content is poor, I'm not going to like pretty much anything else about the business, because they're probably doing other things. The backlinks are probably bad because like it's a very simple product. Like I think if the content's good, it ranks. That is the best backlink strategy in the world. Of course, I think you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So he's saying, he first gives a kind of a description of what the website is about. So 60s, 70s, and 80s movie icons and music. And he's saying he owns it for 2 years, steadily grown. And then he mentioned that they made another project that he's giving away that cost him $3,000. It's called Goat Votes. I'm not sure what that is, but fair enough that he's mentioning this.
Yeah.
You probably know more about this. What that was?
Yeah.
You had the discussion.
It was some sort of like, voting thing where the audience, it's kind of a community building thing. I was interested. It was interesting. Like, and I think you get into this later. There's an email list with the site too. So that's something I like to see. So, but I wasn't like, I wasn't ascribing any value to that. I do think another point, like when he says, there's other directions you can take the site. I was most interested, when people say that. And he says, oh, you can go the affiliate route. And then the question I always ask when someone says, oh, there's opportunity here. So, well, why haven't you done it? And come to find out, he's actually has done it. He's tried. There's a part on the site where
here's an example.
Under, I think it's like buyer's
guide. Click here for the best.
Well, if you go up to buyer's guides in the navigation, there should be some affiliate content in there.
Okay, but this is also affiliate content. This one.
The
Amazon search.
Right. And it probably doesn't convert very well because it's a mismatch. That most people are coming to that page to learn about someone. They're not in a purchasing mood.
That's a buyer's guide.
And so, but he's saying, look, affiliate's an opportunity, which I agree. It is an opportunity. The question though is how much of one is it if he's already tried some of it, and to see where those articles rank. So that's another thing I did. And, we can see, when it comes up, but like the bottom line was that these things weren't ranking very highly.
So I don't think the buyer's guide is something that would succeed here.
Or it might just take a lot of like effort to get it there. If you probably have to publish 20, 30 articles before you saw movement for the entire cohort.
Guide of a portable record player and getting affiliate income from that versus, memorabilia of Led Zeppelin. I'd guess this one would succeed more than this.
I think if you started to do affiliate content around the memorabilia, like actual articles around, that
best collector cards on Led Zeppelin, something.
Yeah, something like that, right? But yeah, you're right. I think like this is a little bit like turntables are a little bit topically off the map.
Yes.
They're related, but they're not.
But instead of the 10 best, records of Led Zeppelin, that would be the post, not something general like that.
Yeah. So I think there's opportunity. I like that opportunity, but I wouldn't ascribe any monetary value to it
because it's unknown. It does mention
that's
here.
What sellers will often put that like all the potential right in the website, which is quite
marketing plus in the listing. Of course, I mentioned those in the videos. You see that a lot. Okay, let's go over the highlights, just what he's thinking, the good stuff. So it's on WordPress, so super easy to manage. That's about 90% of the websites out there. Yep. So nothing special there. Made some keyword research. I think we gave the gist of it just in the last 5 minutes speaking about that, of what you should do. Monetize with Mediavine, but probably you could not transfer that. So that will be probably 40% less. And we'll look at the numbers in a sec of how much the website would make. Unique goat votes project newly finished, but you don't know what the value of that. So that's 0 for now. The last one is interesting. So active and very engaged email list of 1,800 subscribers. What people are getting in this list and why they are so engaged, and why can't he sell more to that list if this is already 1,800 people, which is, I think I would expect it to have more, to be honest, more than those.
Yeah, I think he started this fairly late. Like many of us have started to build their lists, as soon as Google started updating. So I think from what I've seen, I think it's a beehive list. More, it's like stories, right? It's similar to the articles. And so I think, again, the challenge there is it's not like a direct monetization play. Maybe he gets some traffic back to the site, but there's not right now. He's still just building a list. That's a challenge, I think, list building strategies in general. Is like you can build a big list, but until you figure out what it's worth and how you're going to funnel that to things that make money, it's interesting. But again, it's hard to put a number on it. That's baseline. I would use 50 cents per subscriber as like, that's what it typically costs more, but like
per month.
Per subscriber to acquire it. So if I had to go out and build this list to 1,800 subs, I'd have to pay $900 to get the list where it is.
I see.
And so
Yeah, okay.
I'll put some value on it, but it's not going to be a deal breaker one way or another.
Okay, and there is a number for, kind of a rule of thumb of how much a subscriber is worth for you over time per month. But I don't remember what the range is though.
Yeah. Now, if I had a list that we had some super duper offer, which, maybe we have some close to that, but that's not ready yet. I'd be like, okay, this is now very interesting. If I can acquire these subs at a good cost. But again, it's not the main thing. So it's like, is it worth buying the entire website?
If you had a list of your other assets and
Yes.
add that list to them,
Yes.
which already works, that would worth something for you.
Yes, totally.
Okay, opportunities. So he's saying the website is only monetized with display ads, and he's saying, just like you mentioned, going with affiliate, and we just discussed that. But it still is. He's honest enough to say that it doesn't work for him yet because, he's in with other projects, so he haven't tried enough. The site currently has 400 posts, much more room to cover more topics with topical authority. We think he branched too much with the buying guides, but I think going with keywords and stuff like name of artist, son, and relatives or all that, I think is a better strategy. Socials have been on back burner, right? It's basically saying, I don't have anything social, you can build it, thank you. That's a growth opportunity because it doesn't exist, thank you. It's still very hard to do.
Yes.
The site is very easy to run, fine, great. Okay, not too much there. Operation is simple as writing and publishing content on interesting topics that are on brand in the niche and collecting revenue from the integrated display advertising. Again, there are many opportunities to add extra features and monetization angles to the site. So I beg to differ on the operations. That's high quality content that takes a long time to create and publish. So it's not as simple as writing content, right? I don't think this really reflects the reality.
I think there's two ways to look at it. There's the ongoing operations, and then there's the IP as it exists today.
Yeah.
And so if you look at it from an IP perspective, the content has pretty high value because it's really well written. And so if you can repurpose that, or even if you just own that, like it's like a Disney classic, there's some value there. But you're right. I think in terms of to continue operating, this is why it was interesting to me, is we already had a content team that could cover these topics. So but I think if we're a solo operator coming in, you need to think about probably like, if you're going to outsource this and you don't have a team already, that's a big cost line item that's going to jump up, right? We'll get into that later. But if you're an enthusiast, you love writing this stuff and like you're a rock geek, maybe it's the perfect lifestyle business for you.
Yep, definitely. Okay, customers. The audience is primarily US-based, UK, Canada, Australia. So all developed countries, which is good. Developed countries, which is good for the ads. The email audience is very engaged and eagerly awaits a weekly email roundup. I would question that. I would ask them, do you get any replies? What's the contest that you're sending? How does he knows that? Again, take it down not take it down. I mean, make it that it's not marketing fluff, but ask about that to make sure that it's a real thing.
Yep.
He's expecting fairly quick sale, which we know. How long is this listing already?
It's been at least probably 2 or 3 months.
Already. Okay. I usually don't look at those comparisons because it's not clear how they choose what to benchmark it for.
Yeah, I don't either.
I usually skip that. These are again the numbers. The monthly profit here is really not accurate, and we'll look at the P&L in a sec. Revenue and expenses, so definitely going down. Okay, I don't know if you had a chance to look at the longer time period of maybe 2 or 3 years and see if this is a trend, a seasonal thing or not. Maybe
you've gained a lot in the last up until the update. And then what I do like about this though is it does show the floor in December and then do a little bit of an increase. So I feel like if you're trying to call a floor, this gives me
also with the organic keywords actually.
And you see in Ahrefs too, it's also gaining back keywords. So like it's hit the floor, and there's an argument to be made that even if you could never improve the site and you couldn't do the content, you just had the site, there's some floor, right, that you could underwrite it at. And that's how I like to buy businesses. Even if I have a lot of growth strategies, buy them as if nothing else is going to improve.
Yeah. You see that bump here?
Yep. That corresponds.
By the way, why is this 301 here?
I'm not sure.
In this, maybe
is it the extra?
Slash.
Yeah.
Slash.
Maybe. Yeah, that could be it.
Maybe I just did that. Nope. I don't know. Yeah, it redirects this one to the one with the slash. Okay, let's go back to the listing, and then I'm going to go to the P&L. So this is the profits and revenue. And then we'll talk about, let's talk about the multiplier. Okay, so now it's listed for 20,000 and saying that it's making 2,000. No, it's 20,000 USD. How much is 2,000 AUD? Roughly.
It's like, what did it say? Like 1,000. He has it listed in the actual visual of it.
Okay, okay, you know what? Let's look at the P&L, then we'll do the multiplier. Okay, we have the expenses, hosting, email software, G Suite, 8 a month. Oh, it's AUD. It's all in AUD, by the way. Pay attention. And this is in USD, okay? Don't get confused.
Yeah. Yes.
And look at this. This is straight from Google Analytics. You see the crash, as we mentioned. Basically everything, or many websites crashed in October, November.
Yep.
It's pretty regular to see right now. Engagement statistics, look at that. So this is definitely an error that you constantly see on Flippa. So that's not the duration. They're not staying on the websites for 3 hours and 46 minutes. And the engagement is not 0.75. So ask the seller and get access to the Google Analytics, in this case, unfortunately, GA4, go to Google Analytics 4 and see what's going on there. Very important. Top channels, organic, 81%. Usually you see higher numbers. Usually see 90 or 95. So organic social here is pretty high, and direct is also pretty high. Usually don't see that, and that's a good sign. These two are
yes. More we could do with social, because if he hasn't put a lot of effort in, and that's what he's getting already, there might be some opportunity there.
Do you know what's the organic social is? What platform?
I'm not sure. I think it was there's Facebook and Instagram, I think, were the main ones.
Oh, it doesn't have too many followers there. Okay, top countries. All that you see, all those are developed countries, so that's a good sign.
Yep.
And then you have assets. So it runs with Google Analytics and Mediavine. It runs on ads, as they mentioned. Sales include all that. Domain, email address, list, unique content, website files, social media accounts, brand assets, and some WordPress. Social media, pretty disappointing, 150 followers. I can't imagine he gets 8 or 9% of traffic only from that.
It could be the direct number, could also be from the list. I don't know. Maybe that's what he means by engaged.
Let's look at the P&L.
Yep.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Oh, now I see it's 2021. I see the tabs. I was can't be that it's that low. Okay, let's jump to 2023 because that's the most relevant, right? So, by the way, interesting thing is that on the listing, it says it exists for 3 years. He's saying 2 years, and here you see 4 years.
He did buy it from someone.
Oh, okay. He's originally built it. Got it.
That's what I expected too. But yeah, I mean, it's so there must be something there.
Okay. So we have the numbers for 2023. We're now started in March 2024 when recording this. So let's look at the last few months of 2023 and then jump to 2024. So you see October is the record, and then there is a drop here in December, November. He started doing affiliate. That's this line, affiliate US. Not really too much, just $107. And then expenses, pretty cheap. Like that's pretty standard to see what's his spending on. So that's mailer right.
Carefully from the context of his OPEX and your OPEX.
Yeah, what the operation expenses for each.
Because that's the 98% margin is not realistic if you're an investor.
Yes. When you're buying this, you'll have expenses of content, which he doesn't list here. Yeah, I'd say at least $300-400 a month in this content with that. Okay, let's look at 2024. Wait, anything interesting here? Domain, G Suite. No, it's pretty standard. Just January. We're missing a critical month here, February.
That would be if I were going to go back in, I'd say, hey, what did it do in February? Because particularly during updates, I find that the old P&L is interesting, but it's actually misleading.
Definitely like it.
Yeah.
So income, Amazon still pretty small. That's 1,900. And last one was, what was it? 17?
Yeah, I do like to see that. I think there's a little breadcrumb there. That is December, end of Q4 is typically really high RPMs.
Right.
November, December, and January is typically very low. And so that is interesting to see that it's up off the floor a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good sign.
Yes, I would say that normally in other thing about music and if people are into learning music, I don't think it doesn't have a lot of content, but people like to start learning things in January too. They start their diets and they start, hobbies. But since this is more entertainment, I don't know if that's relevant for the site.
Okay, if you're looking at the calculating the multiplier, how many months backwards would you take? 6 months does not reflect the current situation. I would say just 2. If we had February, I would do 3.
March, December. And I think that's generous to even do that because, I think now,
December, January, February. Okay.
And I'd annualize that.
Okay, so we just have 1,700 here and 1,900 here. So 1,800.
Yeah.
US dollars. Okay, let's look at multipliers. So he wants 20,000 divided by 1,800. Let's discount this a bit because we have some expenses, but that wasn't a lot. So let's say 1,750. That's a very low multiplier still. So that makes it super interesting.
Yeah.
Because of the multiplier. So the current multipliers in the market right now are around 25, 30 and a bit. That's and it used to be 35 to 45 about a year and a half ago.
Yes, but I think that here's the thing we're missing is the ad network.
You're right. We do. Let's discount that. So it's not 1,750. Let's cut it in half. Let's do 900.
Yeah.
Okay. 20 divided by 900. We're getting there still low, but we're getting the 25 floor, 25 multiplier floor. Okay, and you still thought that you should not go with this deal. So what will be your valuation for this one? What would you choose?
So I think it's interesting. I'm now we're walking through it, but maybe I'll put another off. I think to me, I guess the big thing is the unknown around the ad network. And keep in mind, I also looked at this website. We didn't have January's numbers yet. And so it was just December. And so after that big decline, I was like, I don't know. We don't know what Q1, looks like for the website. So, honestly, I think it's a fairly priced business if you do it this way. If you look at it from this perspective, I don't know if he's doing himself a service and sort of selling it by doing this discounting gimmick and using the trailing 12 as the earnings. It almost makes people be like, well, what's the catch?
What we didn't add in because the multiplier is on profit and we didn't add in $300 or $400 for content.
Yes.
But I don't know if that's fair because that's kind of an investment. It's not the operational side.
Well, I think it's something. Look, I think in terms of transactions, as a buyer, you want to explain your logic, right? And so, be honest, and also look, I'm not the owner, right? So I can't run it like you've been running it. So it's going to be different for me. My expenses are going to be this. He may not go for that, but even just knowing that yourself, what is that? Because honestly, that's about your investment return.
Right.
And so just knowing what.
Now let's do 600. That would not be as good anymore. That's already the high end of today's market.
But I think you're right in there. There's something what is that OpEx of this business? It kind of comes down to that for you.
Yes, exactly. The operation.
Underwrite it saying, look, I'm not going to spend money on content. I'm just going to cash flow this baby. And then that's
giant. Likely it will decline over time.
Here's an interesting thing. I think historically I would say yes. It probably will decline. I think where we are right now in the market, though, is that it doesn't matter how much content you are publishing, you're down. Everything has changed. And I think that's why I like periods of disruption like this, because there's an asymmetry in information, right? But it's also a challenge because you're like, will this be the new normal? There's some logic to just purchasing websites on the basis of their P&L at a really attractive multiple. And you said, look, we're just going to do the bare minimum to maintain this. And maybe that's sometimes updating content with a site of is a good point. At 400 articles, there's a couple points I want to make there. One is you could just update content as opposed to doing new content, and that might be a better investment. And part two, though, to that is that, to your point, I've always said, for the longest time, that a site with a lot of content, there's actually hidden maintenance costs to it that you may not be paying it, but it is kind of accruing. Like, it's like getting your oil changed on your car. Like, you can miss a couple, but like at a certain point, your odds are going to increase that something bad happens if you're not updating your content. With 400 articles, that's a sizable content inventory to manage. Even if let's say you have an annual calendar and you're like, well, we're going to update 20% a quarter.
You should update all the people who passed away, divorced, new kids, all that.
But I will say, again, I'm talking about both sides, it's very nuanced. Comparing this to a tech site about the iPhone, whatever, latest iPhone, the content profile is more attractive to me because it is inherently a little bit more evergreen. To take someone like Bob Dylan, okay, he's passed away. Like, how much is going to change about Bob Dylan? Not a whole lot. There might be some new information that comes up. You may have a kid somewhere that does something cool, but like, he's not going to change. Like, his story is already written. And so it's different. That's why in tech verticals, it's a double-edged sword. There's opportunities, but then there's risk because your content debt is like technical debt. There's content debt. It's like you have to update the content. And I don't think this site inherently requires updates, but I do think it would be wise to have some sort of plan in place to either update or publish new content or both.
Yeah, this is why I don't like tech content websites. It's constant.
No,
hamster wheel.
It's great. Tech websites are great if you rank number one for everything you publish. But to get there, to start a tech site, you basically have to publish years of content with zero return that gets outdated very quickly to get to the point where you can publish content that ranks.
Very hard. Okay. Any last thoughts? Let me go back to the listing.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little bit more excited about this now.
I'm going to call Darcy and let him know that he has a new buyer.
Yes. Tell him that. And tell him to reference this video, please. Yeah.
I don't know. It's 22.2. It doesn't sound that bad,
Yeah.
22.2.
I mean, I've seen a lot of worse stuff. Let's put it that way.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Ewan, thank you so much. It was super interesting. Very glad to have you here and, giving your insights, especially on a listing that you were about to buy and might buy. I hope the seller would not hear about this from my video, but you'll get in touch with him. And I guess that's it. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much. This has been fun.
Same here. Thanks.